Good evening, everyone. Thanks for logging in. Today we have gathered here to hear the beautiful stories of past from our elderly members. We have set this event like a fireside chat to create the virtual experience as if all of us are sitting around the warm fire in this winter night and eagerly listening to the stories of the past from the original source who lived those times. Last 2 months, I've been interacting with our panelists, and every time I want to hear more as they have so much to share with us. Today, we all have the opportunity to listen to their stories directly from them. We want to hear how the first India centric business chamber was created in New South Wales. Who were the early members and the leaders? What type of trade and commerce they conducted in those days between India and Australia? How they nurtured the organization? Who all supported them? And finally, how, with all their work, effort, and activities, we came to a unified business council that we all are proud of and part of today. The structure of the program today is going to be storytelling style. Therefore, all our panelists will be recounting those days and from their memories. At the end, we will take a few questions from the audience. Therefore, you may type in the questions during the session in the chat box, and based on the first come, first serve basis, we will take the questions at the end. We also plan to continue these conversations in our series 2 again, to start from the time and year where we will live today and bring in another set of leadership for such chats again. All our panelists are life members, and I invite now the New South Wales President Irfan Malik to greet our panelists with a very warm welcome. Over to you, Irfan.
Thank you, Dr. Partha. And I really appreciate you taking the effort and following through, and again building that bridge again back to some of our founding and also early members who are lifetime members as well as we continue this journey. So let me begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land we've gathered, and I pay my respects to their elders past, present, and emerging. Namaskar and greetings to all of you joining on board, of course, New South Wales and elsewhere as AIBC New South Wales members, and all our friends as well. So again, a warm welcome to all of you. I take, and it's indeed my honor and pleasure to warmly welcome these amazing people we have with us, and which is part of our legacy and also a strong history that we have at AIBC. I want to extend my warm welcome to Patricia Verma. What an amazing story I've been able to share with you, and I'm excited to hear more and look forward to obviously engaging continuously with you. So welcome Patricia for joining on board. Welcome Rajni Patel. I know you are in the US now in Atlanta, wee hours of the morning there, but it's your passion again, this Australia-India passion, and also us working with you all, wanting to hear a story that you are there to join us. So welcome on board, and really appreciate you taking the time very early in the morning to join us. Then we also have Abba. Hi, thank you for joining on board. Of course, you've been quite active in the media with AIBC India Now as well recently. But yeah, you've been a core part of our history and our legacy, and we welcome you for this session, and we look forward to hearing from you as well. I want to acknowledge on this note that AIBC is being a 36-year-old organization, being the leading Australia-India bilateral industry body, championing the cause for investment, trade, and business-to-business connect. And our core ethos and intent is to build those people-to-people connect for stronger relationship bilaterally and delivering and supporting that business-to-business outcome. So that's definitely the core focus. What a time we are. Of course, through the years, we have seen various ups and downs from where India was not relevant in the Australian radar to being one of the most preferred nations and the most talked nation in terms of trade, investment, and bilateral and defense collaboration as well, with the Quad agreement and the recent ECTA agreement, which has taken the relations to greater heights and one of the strongest ever we've had. And as we work towards the CECA, the Comprehensive Economic Cooperation Agreement, by end of the year, it presents a great opportunity for us all to reconnect, and including some of our early members, all the members and organizations who've been part of our journey as partners, to come together. All of us have a role to play. And on behalf of AIBC New South Wales, I welcome you all for these series. Obviously, there'll be multiple series, and we want to engage not only our early founding members, but also other members throughout our journey, and even some of the latest members who have come on board. We want to showcase, really share their story and build an inclusive AIBC with a positive outlook that we take it forward. And again, we have a strong, values that, as people of Indian origin have for elders. We rightly wanted to start off with our, early members who, through their career and journey in their life, have inspired millions of people. I guess definitely quite a lot of people through their, years being in Australia or bilaterally. And we want to get them to share their story that definitely inspires me continuously, but also to inspire the rest of us as well. So definitely that's the intent. And as AIBC New South Wales, we took that initiative collectively, saying that we wanted to reach out to our lifetime members, our early members, all our members, and members who have even left us as well. We definitely want to have an inclusive approach, bring them on board, and have them part of this whole amazing opportunity that we have bilaterally. So definitely that's the intent. And the key takeaway is to obviously be inspired by some of these people that we are going to hear today, but also cues from those things, the challenges, how they overcame those challenges, but looking positively, how collectively we can come together, all for us to contribute towards, the journey that we're going to shape, the bilateral opportunity story that we're going to shape together as well. So on that note, again, I welcome all of you, Patricia, Rajni, and Abba, all of you. Really pleasure to have you on board, and I look forward to hearing and be mesmerized and be enlightened by all that we all want to be inspired by. Thank you, and over to you, Dr. Partha, to take it forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Irfan. Thank you for the warm welcome. So our first panelist today is Patricia Verma. She has got a huge amount of stories to say because she has been right from the beginning. So without any further time, I call upon Patricia to start the conversation and share your history and the stories. And maybe you can start with a little bit of introduction of yourself, and then we are all eager to hear from you.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this fireside chat, which is appropriate for me calling in from Melbourne, where it's quite cold. And we actually have a fire going in the next room in honor of this conversation. I guess I should really start with what I have done with the chamber rather than talk about myself. So you know how I am. Okay, so the first thing I thought, with so many new people coming from India and the whole trade changing, I thought I would take you back to the time when we started and what the scenario was. So to set the scene, this was in the early 80s, and India was not high in the agenda of Australia or the world for that matter in regards to trade, geopolitical clout, alliances, and the many things for which India is now quoted, especially the export of its IT and management talent. In a practical sense, communication was the real issue between us and India for doing business. We did not have IT, we did not have social media, we did not even have computers. We had snail mail. Now, you probably don't know what snail mail is, but snail mail is something where it took 30 days for a letter to go to India. It took them 10 days to answer the letter, another 30 days to come back. So to do even one transaction was 3 months, not instant. So you can imagine we were never sure, are they going to reply, or they're not sure, are they going to buy? And it was just one of those things. So apart from that, we also had the telephone. Now, you might remember that the telephone, the older members will remember, was a black big light instrument that mainly sat in post offices in India. Not everybody had telephones. And that also gave way to people always asking me, why do Indians scream into the telephone? The reason why we screamed into the telephone was because we had no connection. We would depend on an operator in India, an operator in Australia. Sometimes they would meet, sometimes they wouldn't meet. And so we'd get really tired and then we'd never make the calls back. So it was a big problem to get on the phone. So we were really, really happy when one day we realized that India had telex. This was fantastic that we can communicate with them for more than just telephone and mail, but through telex. Well, that didn't last very long. So I guess it took us a bit of time. So now you have an idea of what tools we had to work with. And that was quite significant in terms of us doing everything the hard way. So how did we start? How did this chamber start? And how did I get involved with it? So basically what happened was we had a consul general, and I unfortunately can't remember his name, except that he belonged to a princely family, I think from Rajasthan. So maybe somebody can look him up. And we had another maverick in David Abba, who was the executive director of the Sydney Chamber of Commerce. At the time, he had as much profile as the mayor of Sydney. So these two gentlemen got together and decided that we need to have some kind of representation for trade between India and Australia. And David very, very kindly offered the services of the Sydney Chamber, which was not insignificant. So I was in India at the time, and when I got back, my father informed me there's this new association that has been formed, and the Consul General has nominated you on the committee. Now I thought, well, I don't know whether I want to do this, but he was very, very charming and very adamant, and he said, yes, you can do it. So that's basically how I came to be involved with the first bilateral chamber between India and Australia. So, but prior to that, one of the reasons why he wanted me to join was because my husband had worked as the marketing officer for a very brief time in the Consul General. And then when Mr. Mahajan, who was the other Consul General who had come, had got me to work on tariffs with the trade for textiles. The Indian government was having a bit of trouble getting special compensation or dispensation for handicrafts and textiles. And since I was already in that business, they brought me in to actually negotiate the tariffs and the trade. So I did that. And in fact, I actually wrote the tariff myself because the customs at the time did not understand Indian textiles. They only knew things like batik because they were close to Indonesia. So they did not know anything about the way that we did our textiles and how labor intensive they were. So I had to teach them about kalamkari and all kinds of things and hand printing. And then they agreed that, yes, we should have this concession, which we had for about 7 years, as Bob Hawke advised me. He said, I kept it for you for 7 years. Then we went into the harmonization of tariffs, and then those concessions were removed. So, so that was how I actually came to join the chamber. So let me just see where I am. Yes, the other reason why I got involved with the textiles was because the doyen of Indian textiles and reviving them to better the position of the poor artisans was an amazing woman called Kamladevi Chatrapadhyay. And she heard me talk at a session, and she said to me, she said, I know you run other businesses, but I really urge you to take up the plight of the weavers and the farmers and the people involved in doing handicrafts. And that became my life's work a long time ago. So having the clout of the Sydney Chamber of Commerce boosted our efforts tremendously. So what David did was he brought in the bankers, that we had the banks, the P&O, loads of the top people, pretty much members that you have today. But we were fortunate that he was able to give that to us because we would not have had access to those people. And his efforts boosted our chamber quite significantly. But more importantly, he gave us a framework of how to run a chamber. And that was priceless. So what we did it in an orderly fashion, that was the main thing. We had promotion was important, procedures were important, communication with members was extremely important. And that became the hallmark of my style of work and characterized our chamber in various incarnations. We had our members, as well as the ones in Australia. We were very lucky because at that time, the Indian government had a range of organizations in Australia to promote trade. So we had the State Trading Corporation that a very loved member of our community, Kalyan Ram, was in. We had Air India, of course, that we always went to when we needed money or trips for presents. And we had the Tea Board, and Tea Board was quite significant because they used to have a tea center in Pitt Street. And every Australian who went into the city would meet at the tea center and taste the tea. And we found that a very grassroots way of connecting with India. So we had people like that. For me personally, I think the presence of the Engineering Export Promotion Council was a very, very big boon to us, because that was where we found we could then showcase the engineering abilities of India all those years ago, where people didn't understand. From our own case in our own business, we pioneered the imports of Indian automotive components into Australia. And that wasn't easy, because when my father would go and try to sell a brake part, people would say, oh, we buy handicrafts from India, we buy carpets from India. Now you're selling us a brake part, how do we know the car will stop? So, but we persevered, and the very fact that we had people like a very big conglomerate in India called TVS behind us, and other conglomerates who had very, very good engineering skills and were already supplying to the rest of the world, made a big difference. So in 1972, we took a delegation of the top automotive people to India. At that time, India was still quite primitive, and there were some very funny stories of when these people there, what they had to put up with. But what they did see when they went into the factories was world-class factories. And so that gave us the breakthrough to go into the automotive business. And for a long time, India, we had that advantage, of course, until China came and undercut us. And then everybody ran to China. Now that is slightly changing, and we're hoping that they'll come back to India. So that was again how we did things. So we continued in that way for a couple of years, and then we had an issue in that David Abba had resigned, and his predecessor was not predisposed to us. So one of the things because basically we were using their facilities, we were using their secretariat, we were using them, and he probably couldn't see the value. So what he did was he imposed a fee on our members that they had to join the Sydney Chamber of Commerce. Now, at that time, the few Indians we had here to trade all had paucity of funds. And I knew there is no way that these guys are going to be able to pay our fees and then also pay the fees of a #1 Chamber of Commerce. So this was a very big issue for me. And even though we had all the top companies in Australia, my focus was always on SMEs. And I thought, I cannot afford to lose these people. So it was a dilemma, and it was actually my first biggest challenge of what am I going to do? So what I did was, which I always did, I consulted with each and every member personally, and I decided to move us away from the Sydney Chamber, which everybody thought, my God, what are you doing? You're leaving a Sydney Chamber and going to go out on your own. But it was either that or lose the people that I felt was the backbone of our chamber, and the people that would, when everybody else left, they would still be there. So we had a meeting and I abstained from voting. And of course, it was passed unanimously that we leave the chamber. So that was a victory in some way, but the whole point was I had to get the organization registered again. So that was a change of name. And I had to get a constitution. Before anything else, there was to be a constitution done. And to my good luck, Mr. Raj Logaraj, who was a lawyer in the law firm of Baker and McKenzie, volunteered to do it for me. And we spent quite a lot of time. And if we had to pay Baker and McKenzie, we wouldn't have been able to afford it. So Raj had done this for us free of charge. And I'm eternally grateful to him for setting up a constitution that was transparent, was clear. There was no ambiguity, and it certainly served us for many, many years. So that was the kind of help that we got. We left, and I had no money, no office, no secretariat, but we had 100% loyal members and the close rapport and support from the Consulate General of India. They were with us right through, we were with them right through. No matter who came in, we maintained very, very strong links with them. And they knew that we could help them because they also had some limitations. And then we took those over. And then when we had limitations, they took it over. So it was an almost seamless situation for most of the years that I was the president of the chamber. So one of the many things that we used to do, and Partha, I'm just going by the notes that you said people might want to know about, so I'm trying not to get carried away, was we would have buyer-seller meets, which the Consul General used to organize. And there we would go to the consulate and they would provide the food, which was great. So we didn't have to do that. They did all the entertaining, but we would bring the people in. And that was laborious because there again, I used to ring everybody up in any particular industry. If it was textiles, I'd ring everybody in the phone book and call them and say, oh, we've got these wonderful textiles, and bring them. So it was hard work. It was a slog. And fortunately for me that we had a business. And so I ran the chamber from my office with no money coming to us at all. We supported it individually. If we traveled to India, we traveled under our own steam. If we stayed in hotels in India, we stayed with our own expenses. We never took a cent, not me nor my members, for the chamber or on behalf of the chamber for our own use. And when my members would see the way that we would work, they had 100% trust in us. As I would say to them, it's not good enough just to be honest. You have to be seen to be honest. And so if I said anything, they totally believed what I said. If I said, follow me, they followed me. And I made sure that we stayed in very, very close touch with our members. Now, some of the things that we did was I divided up the membership among the people on the committee. And every month, it was divided into 10 people, 10 companies. We would each ring the 10 people on our list and talk to them. How are you doing? What do you need? Are you aware of our activity? Is there anything we can do for you? So it was very, it was really hands-on again. So we did that for pretty much as long as I was there. And then as it grew, we had to then have more people that we had to call. But that was very vital. And we knew if there was any dissent or difficulty that we could handle it because we had personally spoken to our members. So it was very much a grassroots organization, pretty much like how some political organizations start or sports organizations. is very much the way that we did it. And it was very much an Australian way of doing things. I was very fortunate again because the bankers and all the higher ups always contributed. So if I needed a venue for a minister or somebody coming from India, they would give me the use of the bank. They would give me, or they would host all of that. So we didn't have to come up with that kind of money. And we also worked closely with DFAT, and they were very, very kind that they would send people up from Canberra. If I had a particular minister coming from India on a particular thing, they would send a person who was well-versed in that area to fly up from Canberra for the day just to come and do talks with us. We had all kinds of ministers. We had Philip Rudd, who was very popular at the time. He came and spoke with us. We also worked very closely with the state political scene, with people like Barry O'Farrell, and Bob Carr was a very, very big supporter of the Indian scene. He was helpful, and he took a long time to become the Premier of New South Wales. You know, we'd always say, oh, maybe when he becomes Premier, and finally he did become Premier, and again, his support for India was very good. So the goodwill all around was amazing. And as I said, without that, there's absolutely no way that we could have done what we did. So the other thing that I would do to raise money was functions. Functions were very important because in those days on the North Shore, we only had one Indian restaurant. And that Indian restaurant was run by an Indonesian diplomat. It was called Raja Rani. So when the Australians wanted to know where can we get a good curry, or ask Pat, we will get her to have the party. And then everyone would come there. And so if I had 10 members saying they're coming, about another 50 would turn up for Australians wanting to come in. And that's how we raised our money. We would give talks. A lot of the time I would give talks to people and brief companies going to India. I did that with Telecom when they first went, in which you probably don't know, or you know now, as Telstra. The company's Institute of Companies Directors flew me around Australia to talk to company directors, because I realized that on the lower rung of management were very interested, but they could not make the decisions on going to India, because India was still a very hard thing for them to do. So I would go and talk to them and explain to them about coming to India and working with us. So basically that continued for quite a long time. And then what happened was very importantly, we had Rajiv Gandhi come to Australia. It was the first high profile, and certainly a prime minister after a long time coming. And the impact of his visit to Australia was pretty good, particularly with the government. And I remember going to the Intercontinental and listening to his talk. And he was the first person that told us, as a small diaspora, that you are not a brain drain, you are a brain bank. And whatever you do, I urge you to always work for India. And that inspired us, and certainly inspired me. I had quite a lot to do with the speeches that were written for him, and attended the state dinner on behalf of the Australia-India Chamber of Commerce. And that certainly gave the impetus for us to take it to the next level. Subsequently, what happened was Bob Hawke then came and as a prime minister, and he had a real love for India, because as a student, he had backpacked around India. So he was very keen to go, and at that time, we were still the only chamber. So basically, our database was used for everything. And you'd laugh at the database. It was all handwritten on paper, not on computer. And so that was very significant. And because of that visit, they decided to set up a proper bilateral organization, which turned out to be the AIBC. So that was the nodal point for government to government. We enjoyed a very, very good relationship with the AIBC when it first started, particularly with Colin Ward, who was the first president. Colin was a businessman. He had businesses in India, very open, very friendly, and we had a very good relationship with him. So to the point where we almost worked in tandem. So we still looked after the SMEs, but we worked with him so that our members went to them. And in fact, somebody informed me only recently that we were in fact members of, as a chamber, we were members of the AIBC. With Colin leaving, things changed quite significantly, and it was more that the AIBC was going to be with big business, and we stayed with the smaller business, and we were still very strong. You know, we had a very small attrition rate, which is very important for any organization, whether you're big or small. And if you've got 10 people and they all leave, it's not very good. So we've always had that, and working with Colin and with the AIBC was very satisfying. He was, in fact, he was the first person who gave a speech in India and drew a map of India and Australia being joined in ancient history called Gondwana land. I'd never heard of Gondwana land. And he'd go, well, we're all brothers. And we'd all laugh. And he said, we can just cross over the bridge. And he said, he used to say, in Perth, if you stand on the seashore on a clear day, you can see Madras over the ocean. So he with his humor, his Australian humor, the Indians loved it. They absolutely loved it. And so that really brought us in a, you know, nowadays it probably sounds like, oh, that is so immature, but to be honest, that's what built the relationship when there was no relationship. So that's where it was. And then I eventually met a consul general who had just come, and I always went and gave our credentials and said, what way can we work together with you as a chamber? And things started to change in India as well. And he informed me that they were not interested in trade as much as they wanted investment from the West. Now, that was against what I felt was really the need, because if you are trading, if you are manufacturing, if you are exporting, all the things they talk about today, then you are building your country. If you are going to take investment from the West can very easily pull out their investment, and that's exactly what happened. And that happened with some major Australian companies where they went into India, they took their elephants and they did all the big, you know, mela and everything. But in the end, they couldn't make it work, and they came back. And then every time you had a failure, it was India's fault. So we were very careful about who we sent, what the expectations were. We would brief them very, very, very fully that when you go into India, this is what you can expect. I used to always say that in India started Murphy's Law. Now, Murphy's Law is a law that whatever is going to go wrong will go wrong. So the minute I would say to them, when you go to India, go in with the idea of Murphy's Law. So if the planes don't arrive on time, the cars are taking long to get somewhere, the food hasn't turned up, it's got nothing to do with you, got nothing to do with India, it's Murphy's Law. And that people used to say to me, when things would happen in India, they would think of all the crazy stuff I would say to them, and they could handle it. It was not such a big drama in the end. So, so when this, going back to the change of thinking, the trade was not going to be a focus. I didn't feel I was able to make the change. And subsequently, I mean, I felt after 15, 16 years, maybe more, that maybe I should take a back seat. And that's what I did. And that sort of paved the way for Abbas and Rajni to come in. And thank God they still had the ethos of the chamber, never changed, even till the day they handed over the chamber. And so that's where we took it. But as I said, we worked very closely with the AIBC, and we respected what they did and they respected what we did, and we worked together. It was very simple. So I guess that's probably what I have to say at the moment. So I don't know, maybe Partha later on, if you want to ask questions, you can.
Amazing. Dr. Partha, you're muted, Dr. Partha.
Okay. Yeah, surely we are getting some questions, so we will take the questions
already?
again. Yeah. So what we'll do is, that's a good overview, and we will now invite Mr. Rajdeep Patel to share his stories as a continuity of what Patricia just informed us. So over to you. And by the way, for the audience, Mr. Patel is currently in Atlanta in US, and it's when we started, it was 4:30 in the morning, and we had a rehearsal at 11 o'clock, and then again he got up at 4:30 to join this. So thank you for being with us today.
Good evening. Good evening. Can I start, Doctor?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Good evening to all the members and who is joining this session. I'd like to share my story with all of you on my involvement with Australia-India AICC. I joined AICC in 1995, where I met Abbas Bhai, who was the president of AIC at that time, and I also shared his views on AICC, because what Abbas Bhai and my thinking was that we like to get as much as a lot of small medium company members to join the organization, and I also shared Abbas Bhai's view that we should get also a lot of delegations from India to come over to Australia and see what are the opportunities they can give us in selling, what are the products they like to sell, and also these small medium companies can become their agents and start a relationship with them, and how we can build up the Australia-India SME business thinking, you see. So that was the reason when I met Abbas Bhai, and I shared with him his views for the SME, and we wanted to go along with this way. I also remember that at that time, also after joining AICC, we didn't have an office, and so most of this meeting of AICC monthly meeting used to take place either in one of them was at this New South Wales Trade Promotion Office, and the other one was once in a while in the Air India office, and several times of the session we used to have in the coffee shops, you see, because everywhere we used to go, they needed funds to have a small meeting room and all that, and we couldn't afford that, so we just went every meeting we had, but we had in Air India office or New South Wales Trade Promotion office, or sometimes when we can't get these offices, so we just had in the coffee shops in there. But the main thing is that all of us, whatever it is, whether in Air India or what, all of us attended and attended these meetings and wanted to progress on what we can do for the members. So that was the most important thing, you see. Abbas Bhai left, I think, in 2003, president, where this one, and I took it over from him. And I started also that, with my involvement with as a president, and I started all the meetings every month. I had it in my office, which was a Chatswood, you see, in that's one. And when I started the AICC, I do remember we had about 60 small companies, you see. And I also, because of my trade in export business, I tried to get quite a bit of the shipping companies like Maersk Line, Zim Line, who all were going to India to come and support AI, become a member, and when we have gatherings, functions and all that, to come attend and see what is happening in India, I say. But at that time, the concept, with India was a very small one in 2002 and all that. That was not coming up, and all the time the concept was with China, Japan, and that was the story during when I took over the presidency. But anyhow, when I took over the president, I had very strong support from my committee and I had Virendra Reja, who supported me as a secretary and did so much of work. I also had Shorab Dyer. I had also like Paul McKenzie, who also joined, the organization and wanted to promote this SME business, and that was his also. I had a great discussion with Sri Shirodkar. Sri Shirodkar was there during, I think, Patricia Verma time, I think during Abbas time, and during he joined me, you see. And then I had in my this one also with Ram Kalyanji, and also I had Patricia, who also joined, came back and say she will also help how we can how we can improve Australia-India Chamber of Commerce, right? During that time, we had also my time. During also we had the support of Mr. Rao, who was also in charge of trade section in the Indian consulate. So when any of these trade delegations were coming in, he would advise AICC that so and so is coming, and would you like to host the delegation, you see. And at that time, I do remember that that after 2003, a lot of delegation wanted to come to Sydney, but nobody, when we asked them whether they have, how much money they would like to spend for the, for organizing a function, nobody will put up their hands, see. So that was a big problem for us. But anyhow, we tried our best and tried to have this small delegation which comes from India, and we tried our best to hold the functions with this with the Indian consulate. I do remember that in 2006 and this one where we found it, a lot of delegation used to come to Australia, and then I think Naval has taken over AIBCs, with Montario, who was I think New South Wales Chamber President, you see, NSW. And at times I used to see that, quite a bit Indian consulate will ask us that, look, why don't you have one single voice to do Australia, to do a joint, to do a functions for all the delegates, instead of AICC having going for a small function, and while AIBC wanted to do the function also, you see. At that time, I do recall that AIBC they had this secretarial post, and also I think they had the grants from the government, so they were in a very strong position financially, while we were just, we had about 60 members, and with a small amount of money, we couldn't cope up with AIBC. So as time went on, we, Sri was our PR there, and Sri Shirodkar, had a chat and met Naval, and Naval Roach suggested, why don't you speak to AICC members and merge with AIBC, because it will be a win-win situation for both, both organizations. So as I, as I put across this to all the members, and we agreed with it, because with a small amount of money, it was, we will not be able to hold functions for all these delegates who are coming in, and with AIBC and, with the support of one voice, we could do much better. So as a result, then, we decided that, I, with Patricia Verma, and we all negotiated with AIBC on the terms of joining AICC with merging with AIBC. I also recall that our first joint AIBC-AICC event was done when the present Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited Sydney as a Gujarat Chief Minister. So And after that, AIBCC took over all the administration of AICC, and then it went on, you see. So that is my story of my involvement with AICC as a president in many years. Thank you.
Thank you, Rajni, for that. In terms of timeline, can Abbas bhai, you give us an overview? Because when we spoke, obviously, you gave us a very good timeline. So maybe, Abbas bhai, I would like to invite you to give the timeline of AICC merging with AIBC, and then it became a unified AIBC. And I think Naval came to Sydney around 1997. So maybe you can give more lights and facts around that. So over to you, Abbas bhai.
Thanks, Partha. I certainly acknowledge my presence on the land of the indigenous people and respecting their elders past and present. Irfan and Partha, both thanks to you, and I congratulate. At least you have an opportunity after many years, 20 years, to bring back and touch the history of the business activities between India and Australia, which was really fascinating and very difficult time, which a number of people have gone at that time. So I'll just go very quickly and explain to you some things, how my involvement came actually. I came into Iba as a founder member in 1989. That was a time when the High Commissioner was Hamid Ansari Saab, and the Consul General was Mr. Soni in Sydney. And Pat was already aggressive in the business world at that time. And in fact, she is the one. There's only 3 people whom I remember who have been involved in everything. One was the Pat. One was the Reg. Jewel was the person who was involved with the Pat before I came, and much initiative. And another person was Paul Dominic, who has written almost everyone's constitution, including Iba, AICC, AIBCs. All those constitutions were written by him. So these 3 people were the pioneer as far as I have seen it. Paul Dominic is no more in this world, and we don't know where is Reg now, certainly. So I joined Iba as a member, as an ordinary member, and Pat was very enthusiastic. If anybody is coming, has interest in the import and export business dealing with India, she was always opening the membership. And I do remember there's a number of us meeting very regularly to the Consul General's residence, because all the events, whenever any minister came, Consul General used to throw the lunch or dinner or something like that. We used to go there, meet there. Later on, I was appointed as the vice president of Iba in 1994, after 5 years of serving in Iba. And at that time, the president was Kevin Adamson, who was very well known in the automotive business. And he was a good friend of Pat also. So the Pat was the first, then Kevin Adamson, then me, and then Rajni bhai came. This was the hierarchy of Iba and AICC. Iba basically was very active. And as they mentioned that we are serving the SMEs, and certainly these points I always mention, I feel proud to mention that all the 4 presidents or secretaries or any board members, none of us has claimed a single cent from the organization. We are putting up our time, we are putting up our efforts, because for us, the important was the India-Australia relationship. We do remember, I mean, in fact, I used to say in my speech, when we came to this part of the world, at that time, India was known for the, charming snakes or beautiful, turbans or masalas or tea. That's what the India was known. And Australia was known only for kangaroos, cricket, cheese, coal, these were things. So we came into a phase when the different products have started moving into that. We have played very important role in putting up the SMEs, especially in the engineering and industrial products. Number of the products at that time we were able to sell, and quite bit years of my presence there, I remember Pat used to discuss this very frequently. When the tariff was changing by the Australian government, when the China is becoming a favorable destination for the import, and we lost a lot of import from India in terms of the textile and garments, we were very active actually. We are persuading a lot along with the Indian governments as well as with the DFAT that yes, our importers should not suffer, and we played quite an important role at that time. Some of the major programs which I remember, in fact, one of the things probably I like to mention that Iba, I have seen only one directory that was published during our duration there. So Iba also had a one published directory which was supported by the Department of State Regional Development. Michael Raj is the person who was very much supportive to us, and we published this directive which was released during the New Horizon program, which was happened. Australia has promoted itself in India. It was a very massive program, and at the time Iowa was there, and we have taken the delegation to Delhi, Bombay, Mumbai, and in fact we signed the memorandum of understanding with FKCCI. That's the first time we signed the agreement with them, and agreement was that they are exporting companies who wants to export to India will be coming through our channels, and our companies will be going through that channel. It was quite a successful program, and it was quite a good achievement for us because Australia has invested a huge amount of money in promotion of Australia in India at that time. So quite a big get-togethers were arranged, roughly about 700 people, 800 people. Australian High Commission at that time has arranged that. Of course, our focus always have been to SME, and that is because at our time, the big corporates were not so active. And if there were some corporate, I will say even the Rajni Bhai's company I consider a corporate because he was exporting quite a good amount of containers every month, I know. So they were our members. People like Andrew Rafshogi, who was a premier, he has been in our delegation to India. And I repeat the things what Pat has mentioned. Never we have gone on the expense of IBA or ICC. We have taken our own initiative, our own money. I, of course, landed up here when there was a telex machines working and the fax just introduced. I remember buying a fax machine at $1,200 in 1990. So it was a big thing for us at that time, and we used to use all those sort of things. IBA has in that directory, I remember because I was involved into making that directory 65 members at that time. And of course, when AICC has grown up, the number of the members have also increased slowly. My last event was on 27th of November when Rajni Bhai has taken over from me. An event was basically Honorary Minister David Campbell, actually, he has attended that. But few things I want to mention which may be very important to AIBC. In 1999, I remember the AIBC whole has the 96 members. And 6 members were the ex-officio member, which Pat was trying to, and that was a good model actually. What is ex-officio members? Ex-officio members were, one was the AICC IBA. So the president of the IBA was officially attending the AIBC meetings. And AIBC meetings were officially attended, IBA and AICC's meetings officially attended by AIBC. So Patty Daly was the person who was involved at that time. She was handling that. She used to come in our meeting, and a number of times she has been with us. Then the second one was the AICC Victoria. And AICC Victoria, if you people, some of you remember, Shabbir Wahid was the president there, who was later on appointed as the Consul General of Mumbai. And he served there. And there was another gentleman, David Bailey. These are the people from the Victoria who were attending our programs, our meetings also, sometimes. Not all, but sometimes they used to come. There was only one organization AIBC is having in South Australia, very few numbers. I think, I don't know the exact number, but certainly will not be more than 20. And there was a person called Siva Selva. He was handling that. In Queensland, there was a Queensland Queensland India Business Association, which was handled by the Hans Blas. And Victoria, in Perth, there was a chamber, Australian Chamber of Commerce, Tim Benjamin. Now, why I mention all those things to you? Because all AICCs, like AICC New South Wales, AICC Victoria, AICC Perth, QIBDA, and the AIBC SA, this was the one collaboration sort of things. We were forwarding our minutes, we were forwarding our AGM details, and number of these members, when they were visiting to each other's big cities for their business, they tried to come at the time when our meetings were there. So they were part of us. And we always shared each and everything with them. There was one more gentleman used to come from Canberra because AIBC was not in Canberra at all. He was representing Middle East and Indian Ocean support sort of things. John Enright was the person who used to come and attend this type of program. Now, something I will certainly like to mention, because Rajni Bhai has mentioned about the combination of both the organization. Actually, that part has started during my duration, and somehow we were thinking, because Indian Consulate, Indian High Commission, DFAT, everybody wanted that. It's difficult for us that there's so many organizations, where to go, what to go attend, and all those sort of things should become one things. Positively, I have discussed with Pat, I have discussed with my all members. We were thinking, yes, but there should be interest of our members should be kept alive. So I was given a very difficult task at that time, and I maintained that. And the difficult task was that we have majority of SME members. SME members were very senior in terms of their business, in terms of devotion of their time, putting up their contributions, but membership fees was lower, much lower than what AIBC must be doing. So if you see at the time of the merge, AICC has a good number of the members. If you say all the three AICC, we have much more members with us. But the funding of finance was not much with us, because we are not getting any sort of funding from DFAT or anybody else. Of course, our support was in terms of the getting the venues and arranging the meetings or some lunch or something like that. I put it up this part very hard, and we had 3 meetings with the Consul General, AIBC, Mr. Neville Roach, myself, and we stuck upon the point of SME. We wanted that SME should be given the same voting rights as any AIBC members. But more or less, I think that was a good initiative and good discussions. We had it. When I handed over, I think Rajni Bhai, you have the merger on 29th of August 2006. That's what the SGM you call it. And that was happened in your office. Actually, I was not here at that time. And that merger was signed, as Rajni Bhai mentioned, Rajni, Neville Roach, and Mohan Montoya was the one person. Look, we have gone through some of that difficult time when people were not interested to know India, and we were promoting the India, but we have highly emotional attachment with India and Australia relationship, with our business chambers, with our business association, with our councils. And there are number of the people who worked very hard. It is not me or Pat or Rajni has done that. These members were doing it, and people like Michael Raj, Shalu Sood, Robert Krakovic, Alan Freshwater. I'm reading these names, which I have it. Zafar Siddiqui was one of the person, Pat, he was involved with you from the day one. And he was also become the board member of the AICC. Rajni Patel, of course, everybody, Bob Doer, who has been the mayor of the Parramatta very recently. He was the board member of AICC. He was the vice president. Mr. Rao from CGI, he was very enthusiastic to help us. This is the one thing which I think we should re-establish, that inquiries were received from the consulate, and they used to give it to the chamber, and chamber used to, or IBA, AICC, and we used to circulate it to our members. Our members used to build up the business with these inquiries. Unfortunately, I don't see those sort of things. Shri is no more with us, very enthusiastic. Mr. Ram is very senior. He is still think about the AIBC. In fact, he was talking to us a few days back. Narendra Bhandari has been the vice president, was very active. Red Joel, I have mentioned to you, he has devoted a huge amount of time, number of meetings. Iba also at the time of Pat, she has a meeting there. Paul Dominic, I have mentioned to you, was the barrister who has written actually these are the people we should recognize their name at least, because these are the people who have really devoted a huge amount of time with our businesses. John O'Connor, Ray Pavri, Arnold D'Souza, who was in the Air India, very active now. Paul Mackenzie has been very active. Sarah Gillies was the one of the ladies, she worked as secretary. Pat Hanna, Uday Mitra, these are the people, Virendra Heja, John Cronin, Mr. Bhaveja was there, Paul Mackenzie, Vinod Daniel, So Majumdar, Sunil Lal. You know, there's a huge number of the people who have devoted their time, their energy. I think I certainly request the New South Wales chair of AIBC, as well as through you, I want to reach to the national chair. Please consider those people also who have devoted their huge amount of time 30 years back. Bring back them. Look, I really want to see that AIBC should have a big office now, official office, and we will love to serve not on the charges basis, but on voluntary basis your office. So your office will always be attended. At least you should do it. There should be an office. We moved the office from the president secretaries. But I wish that now this is the time when the relationship between India and Australia is becoming so good. Mr. Modi is putting up a lot of efforts on the New India and other things, and also the consul generals here and everywhere in Victoria, and the high commissioners are devoting time. DFAT is devoting time. Delegation has gone just a couple of weeks before delegation came. I think we need to honor, respect these old members who have devoted their time, and they are still doing the business between India and Australia. Thanks a lot for your time, and thanks a lot for listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Basbhai. Wonderful. Dr. Pata, you're muted. Dr. Pata, you're muted. You can unmute.
Oh, okay, sorry. Huh? Thank you, Abbas Bhai. And we'll have a couple of quick questions, so you can decide who would like to answer that. So the first one is from Vinesh V. George. So what industry do you feel are important for Australia from India, similar to what you had noted in years past with the automotive industry? And the follow-up of that is, how does AIBC actively involve itself in connecting the dots in such situation? Basically, a solution or any thoughts, any ideas from your past experience.
I will answer some part of that, but I will request Pat and Rajni, who are more experienced than me actually in this line. I would suggest that one thing probably we need to look into that value addition in third country exports, basically where you can export, when Australia can export to the third country via India by value addition, or India can export to the third country via value addition in Australia. I think this activity should be considered. I feel that I know it is happening these days with some of the companies doing that, and probably it is a valuable. From the AIBC angle, I can't answer basically. I will leave it to Pat and Rajni on that.
Oh, well, I think, in fact, I think, Irfan, you probably are in a better position to discuss that because you are a contemporary We're
Sure,
old.
sure, definitely.
So,
We'll value your thoughts based on your experience. I'll definitely touch on that point.
Okay, so
Do we have other questions? Yeah.
yeah, so the other important question is, obviously, an organization which lasts that longer, you must have done some amazing work with your membership. So would you like to share, what exactly you did so that your membership remained with you and they remain productive, proactive, and maybe something we can learn from you?
okay, maybe I'll answer some of that. Our members came first with everything. They were the total focus of where my attention was, apart from getting the business to come between India and Australia. I guess I ran a very tight ship in what we did. We communicated. Communication was very, very important. Two-way communication, not us telling them we're doing this, we're doing it. What do you want us to do? What do you need? What can you do for us? So things like that were very important. Just in practical terms, what I used to do was we used to photocopy or have printed application forms to join our chamber. That used to be sitting in the consulate office. It used to sit in all the Indian government offices like Air India, T-Board, everybody had it on their desks. Our members had it on their desks. And just to give you a little story was because we were already in the business, Mr. Kodishwaran, who was very, very big with and helped us in the engineering side. And he called my father and he said, oh, you're Mr. Grief, you are dealing with India and you have a business. Why don't you join my chamber? And my father said, well, my daughter is your president. And he went, oh, Patricia, we are all so scared of her. Like I was really young and much older than me. And my father came back and said, what do you do in that chamber that all these old guys are scared of you? And I would always have the philosophy that I would listen to everybody, but I would make the decision and the buck stopped with me. If anything went wrong, I was responsible. And because I was so transparent and very open, my members were there to respond. So I didn't give them the opportunity to leave us, to be honest. So that's why I took the chamber away when I knew they couldn't afford to pay the double fees. I was always very conscious of what they could do and what they couldn't do. I mean, going back to Rajni, we used to have meetings in his office and I would eat up all the cashew nuts and things that he would have that as his samples and to sell. And I said, Rajni, what are we having for dinner? And we'd have all the cashew nuts and whatever was sitting there. So it was sort of things like that it was a bond. It was absolutely a bond and a bond that exists today. I can tell you, if I send out a message and say, look, we're going to have dinner or after COVID or do something, at least 70, 80% of my members who might be still alive will come. So it's I didn't give them a chance to leave. And if they had to leave, it was always for a very good reason. And I think I don't see this, and it's hard with big organizations. And when you're sending out emails and things, they're not personalized. You know, they may say on an algorithm, hi, Mr. So-and-so, but in fact, it's pretty hollow. There's nothing like picking up a telephone and saying, hey guys, how are you doing? You know, we've got this happening. And, you know, they would come along and everybody, whether, you know, they worked with us so closely. I remember Tony Evans from the Commonwealth Bank ringing one day and saying, Pat, India has only got 2 days of foreign exchange cover left. I mean, you guys might not even remember that. How are we going to get paid for our wool and whatever? So we saw India through some very, very dark times as well. And we always try to do the best to, you know, make the Australians confident and comfortable with dealing with India. So it didn't matter who the minister was or who the high person was. We stayed very much focused on our members. We had one member, a guy who wanted to join, and he was very well connected with political parties. And he said, I can bring these ministers to you, but he was a doctor. And he said, but will you waive my fee? And it was all of $80, which to us was a lot of money. And I thought, you're a doctor. And I said, no, I won't. And then he paid his fee and he brought every minister to us. And that was wonderful. So I was very strict. I was pretty strict, and we had rules and we stuck with the rules. And I guess that's how we kept our members. And maybe, I don't know whether Abbas and Rashdi would agree with that.
Yeah, I will just add this part actually. Actually supporting comments for Pat. Look, every chair, every board goes through that, where the Indian side as well as the Australian side will be communicating with you, coordinating with you, whether it is a DFAT, whether SCI, CGI, whatever is that. But I think that we, as a board, should first of all look after the interests of the members. Of course, they will always be connected with that. Our policies, our strategies, our working, our everything will be depending upon them, with their help, with their coordination. But our prime goal should be our members. That's what Pat has done that. That's what I have done that. That's what Rajni has done that. And we were very successful in that part. Our prime interest was members.
Thank you. I think we're running a little over time. Maybe one quick last question, just maybe 1 or 2 minute quick answer. One, we talked about managing internal membership. Another is managing external relationship. So Patricia, you have spoken about Bob Hawke and his patronage, and you went for a delegation with Bob Hawke, if I'm not wrong. Maybe just a quick 1 or 2, what you did with the external relationship.
Well, the thing is that was about the time that AIBC had come in. So they really took the higher position with the delegation, and that was fine. We supported whatever they did. We went to the meetings, and then also, because I had also another kind of relationship with Bob, in the sense that it wasn't only AIAC, I was supporting him in their fundraisers for the party and whatever. So we talked about things afterwards, as I did with Kim Beazley, who was at the time voted the most important defense minister in the region by Time magazine. So I had the opportunity to actually interact at fairly high levels, and always with a view to what are we going to do? What is going to be the result for India? I was in DFAT's office one day when the phone rang, and it was Paul Keating, who was the Prime Minister. And he mentioned that ANZ had been able to buy Grinley's bank in India. And at that time, the banks were not being sold. And we spent a lot of time, I spent a lot of time with pushing that, and I'd keep bringing it up in all the forums. And I remember the Trade Commissioner at the time said, oh, Pat Verma's here. I'll tell her what you've just said. And they knew that I was with them all the way whenever something was done with Australia. But I guess I failed to mention probably the most important thing that happened during my time was the second largest trade aid project that was done with India and Australia was a project with Coal India, and it was called the Pipavav project. It was open cast mines. And because in India, our family company did deal with Coal India, I've been dealing with Coal India since I was at university. So I was able to have a lot of input from both the Australian side and also from the Indian side. And to this day, that subsidiary is still the most profitable subsidiary of Coal India. So that was a very, very good project that we had done. And somebody like Alan Roy was very, very significant in doing that project. And so was Travis Duncan. So we had very, very competent people who were there to do these things. You know, it was not just pulling somebody out of a hat and saying, go and do this job. There were people who were very, very dedicated and very knowledgeable about what they were doing. So that was very important, yeah.
But thank you very much. I think that was very interesting to know about, from 80s to 90s, and now, of course, we are in 2022. We wanted to actually have initially one program to start from 80s and then AIBC and then continue to today. But obviously, even now we have crossed 15 minutes over the time. So our second series will be essentially where we left today. So basically, from your days, we came to a merger situation of AIBC, and from the merger situation, how AIBC went forward to where we are today. So that will be a series 2. So I just want to leave at that, and I want to invite our President Irfan again to propose the vote of thanks and probably give some overall points that we have gathered today, hearing to the beautiful stories. So
thank you, Dr. Partha. Thank you, Dr. Partha. Let me again humbly thank you, all of you, Patricia, Rajni Patelji, and Abbas. Thank you really for sharing those insights. And I'm really quite humbled hearing. And what I can really connect with all of you is that passion for Australia, India. Those days, and I can assure you the passion continues with me and my team and all the members as well. So definitely I can see that passion, and we are here to make a huge impact together. And the other thing which I want to acknowledge is I've been obviously, known for being a strength-based leader. I believe everyone has something to offer, even if they may not be in the position, but there's a lot we can derive from you. In fact, I'm going to go through some of the key points. I've taken notes as well. But yeah, hearing you and your passion, I can assure you that I'll be in touch. My team will be in touch with you, and not only you, the others as well through the journey, because I believe all of us have a role to play even now with the whole new era that we are, we've kind of embarking on. And I want to especially acknowledge Dr. Peter Varghese as well, being one of the leaders who have changed the game in terms of Australia-India relationship, and then with Ambassador Anil Wadhwa, both the IES and AES strategy as well. So definitely to this era, I want to acknowledge, and in fact, as we go through the series, we will continue to reflect on some of the great achievement challenges and how we overcame as well. But taking cue from those telex days to our instant WhatsApp days that we are, I want to definitely acknowledge those challenges you overcome. And as AICC, the chambers, across different states, how you used to, coexist, collaborate, co-curate things as well. So that's definitely a takeaway. In fact, we have done, you've invited some of the other chambers as well. In fact, I want to go beyond just the Australia-India chambers. We want to invite, in fact, I was at Canterbury Bankstown Chamber, and just me being there present and talking about Australia opportunity, about 15, 20 businesses connected and all SMEs. So definitely going out and bringing others into the fold is definitely going to be our focus. I do acknowledge and the challenges you had as well around the committee members being limited, and obviously you had split engaging members with the larger member base very regularly, and that's something we've taken on board as well collectively as New South Wales management, that we have divided the membership to be really engaged very regularly with our management committee. But also going further, we acknowledge that we want to build working groups, actually actionable working groups, whether it's sector or outcomes or specific areas. In fact, I would want to call out and some of the things which came up, the experience around tariff and change negotiations. So we are post-ECTA, we are still trying to figure out exactly how we will harmonize things, whether it's standards or tariffs, the zero tariff. We will go through that, and this is the initial phase of inertia. And we would definitely call on your experience or how you did it, who are the people within the ranks that you pulled it and got the influence and outcome for business. So definitely, I would love to see working groups representing you, part of our management committee, and an extended membership to be involved in that as well. The other thing which I want to take a cue is definitely our strong membership focus. And when I say membership focus, it's obviously, those days we had AICC focused on SMEs and small businesses. AIBC was big companies. I can call out definitely from the new AIBC perspective, the direction is we have to have the corporates and the large companies on board. But in some cases, even the consulate, they feel that, probably they don't need us to make things happen on the ground. They have the big fours or other companies on the ground or foot soldiers on the ground. But definitely they will be part of our ecosystem. We want to acknowledge that. We want to have them with us. But our focus will be, what I'm calling the SMILES framework, SMLE, so small, medium scale, large enterprises, but also indigenous businesses and startups, which is part of the new India story and new Australia India story, where there's a lot of startups and innovative companies, really doing well, and we want to get them also on the board, on board with our initiatives as well. And I see bilaterally them doing well. So we are for corporates, but also strongly for SMEs, indigenous businesses, and startups as well. The other thing which I want to acknowledge is, in terms of, obviously, organizations evolve as, their mandate evolves as well. And I think just as us, the other, councils, whether the Israeli chamber or UK Business Council, all of them evolved. So there's obviously a structure, and all of us are in this pro bono. Obviously, it's a membership-based not-for-profit organization. So obviously, working towards a structure and executive team, all these things are part of an organizational growth and evolution. So definitely at various times, we will be undertaking that. But my approach is, again, I can talk for our leadership as well, is an all-inclusive approach. And we will definitely get our members, our early leaders, and the people who have come through our journey along as well with us. So definitely that's my commitment and our commitment together as well. In terms of one thing specifically mentioned about some of the leads and inquiries, obviously AIBC is set up AIB, the Australia Business Enterprises, as well as the Digital Exchange Forum. So sometimes it's hard to have all these personally covered. So we will, as part of our digital transformation that we will hopefully launch very soon, where all of you will have easy access and you'll be really impressed. I can vouch for that all these opportunities will digitally be accessible, and where there is interest, people can engage, they can bring leads as well, because we all are doing bilaterally businesses and we have our own leads coming through. So that can be posted, and there will be also, the members will also be acknowledged, and they would have an opportunity to be part of the business and those opportunities as well. So that's something which I'm going to call out, and every member will have that exposure as well. The other thing around the location, I'm pleased to say that definitely I also strongly believe that we should have a permanent office location. In fact, looking at 36 years and how the property prices have gone through, I mean, we should have owned our own space by now, and maybe even sublet spaces to bring revenue. Obviously, various organizations have done that. But again, what we have pitched strongly is with what the new government or the new IES and the ECTA outcomes, where there's an announcement of a Center for Australia-India Relations, which is a big commitment from the government, and I believe that will be a game changer. We are strongly, pushing for and really requesting that to be located in Sydney, in New South Wales. And we've also proposed that AIBC should be co-located permanently with the Center for Australia-India Relations. So we work in hand with them. And of course, we have a permanent office with space, even a co-working space where all our members could come there and work and, enrich the whole, the opportunity as well. So definitely strong commitment on all those fronts. But most importantly, we respect our elders, and that's our strong values. And I definitely can assure you that I'll be meeting up with you for coffee, and inviting you to the Startup Hub where we are operating out now, which is, again, one of the best investment from the New South Wales government. Investment New South Wales is co-located as well at the Sydney Startup Hub. Well, I would warmly welcome you there. Definitely, I'll host you for a coffee catch up. And definitely, I value your inputs and experience. And definitely, even speaking to Kalyan Ramji and all of the others, I get a lot of inspiration and a lot of ideas, and which are relevant. Even obviously, its manifestation, implementation might need a little tweak, but all of them are relevant. So I really value that, and really thank you all for your time. You're sharing those stories. That's amazing, and inspires me and all of us together as well. So on that note, again, I warmly extend my thanks and appreciation on behalf of the AIBC New South Wales management team, all the members, and the national leadership as well, for taking this time and sharing your story and those amazing insights as well. Thank you again, and we wish you great health and happiness, and to be able to do more for humanity for good. And ultimately, we all leave a legacy in this world. And I hope, all of us are able to, leave that legacy for the generations to come. So thank you again. Over to you, Partha, and we'll wrap it up on that note.
Yeah.
One thing, Doctor, I'd like to share with Irfan, that if AIBC can, take up, try and get, these certifications of exports to India, Pakistan, and all this, because at present I find all exports from Australia, which are going to the Indian subcontinent, is going through a New South Wales Chamber of Commerce, the certificate of origin, see?
Okay.
So if AIBC can get there, when I was, the president, and I tried to get AICC, that if the New South Wales Trade Office to get us this certification that AICC can issue Chamber of Commerce with a small fee. And I think they knocked it back because they had New South Wales Chamber of Commerce doing all this and the monopoly to them, see? So
Okay.
I hope, if you can take it up and see, because every time any export, say 5 tons or 10 tons or 100 tons, needs a certificate of origin, see? And I hope that to the Indian subcontinent and all, if AIBC can do that and, an office there, I think that will help quite a bit, you see. And also a revenue is coming in. Instead of paying New South, at present we are paying $35, you see, to that. And also, we have to wait, you see, there, you see. But something, AIBC can look after. So I hope, get it there, because if that's something
very valuable there. In fact, I'm meeting the Business New South Wales guys tomorrow, the chair and the president tomorrow morning. So I think I'll have that back of my mind. But I think that's a very valuable point.
Because the exports is coming now to the Indian subcontinent, to everyone. And always we had to go to New South Wales Chamber of Commerce, and these fellows will take 1 day, 2 days, because, they're so busy with the thing. Even what has happened now, I'm exporting to Egypt, and Egypt now demands that the certificate of origin to be sent by Arab India Chamber of Commerce, you see?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so this is something I wanted,
very valuable, and I'll definitely take that up strongly.
I think we should do,
with the right channel as well, without offending people, but it's all, we share and care.
That's right. So I think we should do that. And so
I will definitely be speaking to you about this very specifically.
No problem.
Thank you.
Okay, Doctor.
So with that beautiful note and an idea for more funds to come to AIBC, I think we leave this in a very positive note. And thank you again, Patricia, Rajni Bhai, and Abbas Bhai, and all the participants. So hopefully we'll meet very soon again.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.